Hey, welcome to Starbound. If you're tired of AI garbage and you want true, honest human storytelling, you're going to want to subscribe and support this channel. My name's Daniel Pierce. I'm going to be your narrator today. Now, let's get into today's story. The universe has a twisted sense of humor, and I'm the punchline. My name's Orrin Shaw, and I used to haul cargo between Mars and the Belt. Past tense, because apparently I'm now several thousand years in the future, or maybe in another dimension entirely. The giant floating jellyfish things who found me couldn't quite explain which. All I know is that when I engaged the experimental drive, some corporate suit swore that was perfectly safe. I ended up here, wherever here is. And humanity is nothing but dust and forgotten data fragments. I woke to a sensation like someone had pureed my brain in a blender, then stuffed it back in through my ears. The ceiling above me pulsed with a soft blue light that made my retinas ache. Everything smelled wrong, too clean, like someone had recreated the concept of sterile from a philosophical treatise rather than actual chemistry. "Captain Shaw, you are conscious." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, calm and British and achingly familiar. "Casey?" I croaked. My throat felt like I had gargled gravel. "Indeed, Captain. I'm pleased to report that despite the rather spectacular failure of the experimental drive, we have both survived. Though I use the term survived somewhat loosely, given our current circumstances." I tried to sit up. Bad idea. The room spun like a carnival ride designed by sadists. "Where are we?" "That is a rather complex question. The beings who recovered us, they call themselves the Curator Concordants, have been attempting to explain our situation for the past 19 days while you recovered." 19 days? I forced myself upright despite my body's protest. The room came into focus. The walls were seamless, curving into the floor without a joint, their surface showing a faint, fibrous grain like massive bone. The furniture looked designed by someone who had had the concept of chairs described to them but had never seen one. "Yes, you suffered significant cellular damage from the transit. The Curators repaired what they could, though they expressed considerable fascination with what they termed your charmingly simple bilateral symmetry." "Great. Even the aliens think I'm basic." I swung my legs off the bed thing. My feet found the floor, which had the unsettling quality of being exactly the right temperature. "So, these Curators, friendly, hostile, somewhere in between?" "Decidedly friendly, though their concept of helpfulness may require some adjustment on your part. Captain, there is something you need to know about our temporal displacement." The way Casey said it made my stomach drop. My AI had been with me for 6 years, and I'd learned to read his vocal patterns like other people read facial expressions. This was his brace yourself tone. How bad? "The Curators have no record of humanity in their current archives. Their civilization spans 7 million years of recorded history. Based on their analysis of the Wanderers database, they've concluded that humanity never achieved great interstellar colonization." The words gut-punched me. The air left my lungs and the floor seemed to tilt. My mind reeled, trying to process his words, what they meant. My parents, my sister, that bartender on Phobos who made the best synthetic whiskey in the system, Earth itself, with its blue oceans and green continents that I'd only seen in pictures but always planned to visit someday. Gone, not just dead, erased, like we'd never existed at all. "Captain, the Curators have requested an audience. They wish to discuss your situation and propose what they term a mutually beneficial arrangement. I laughed. It came out broken and bitter. Sure, why not? Not like I have anywhere else to be. The Curators look like what would happen if a jellyfish mated with a chandelier and their offspring studied philosophy. They floated in a chamber filled with a buoyant, shimmering gel, their translucent bodies rippling with intricate webs of emerald and sapphire light that Casey's processors decoded into words. Honor the last echo of humanity, the closest one communicated. We grieve with awareness for your lost state. Thanks, I muttered, really feeling the sympathy. The captain expresses gratitude. Casey translated, editing my sarcasm with the diplomatic subroutines I'd never bothered to have removed. The Curator's light shifted to a rapid, joyful cascade of gold. Their excitement was obvious. We have consulted deeply regarding your preservation continuity. The loss of an entire sapient lineage is tragedy beyond measurement. We propose a solution path. I'm listening, I said, though my thoughts were elsewhere. My mind drifted to Earth's pizza and how no one would ever again argue about whether pineapple belonged on it. How all our stupid, beautiful, terrible history was just gone. Your genetic pattern is intact and viable. We have secured a brood unit from Amaran Collective. They will assist in re-establishing your species' foothold in existence. Casey translated this perfectly, but my grief-soaked brain refused to process it. I'm sorry, what? A bond unit? 2 female equivalent Amaran have volunteered for genetic compatibility modification. They will arrive tomorrow's cycle to begin the procreation procedure. I stared at the floating philosophy jellyfish, then at the walls, then back at the jellyfish. This is a hallucination. I'm still unconscious or dead, probably dead. The captain requires time to process this information, Casey said. Of course, understanding. Rest well, last echo. Tomorrow brings new beginnings. They floated out, leaving me alone with my AI and the absurd conviction that the universe was playing an elaborate prank. I spent that night in my assigned quarters, a series of rooms that felt designed by an algorithm after someone fed pictures of human habitats and told it to approximate. The bed was too soft, the walls were too smooth. Everything was just slightly wrong in a way that set my teeth on edge. Casey, what the hell is a brood unit? Based on my linguistic analysis and cultural context gathered from the Concordance's databases, it appears to be a specialized caste within Amaran society dedicated to interspecies reproduction. The Amaran possess a unique biological adaptation that allows them to carry and birth offspring of various species with some degree of hybridization. Why not just clone me? You said they repaired my cells. The Curator's analysis of your genome indicates a high probability of psionic instability in cloned subjects, a unique human trait they find both fascinating and problematic. They believe that for your species, natural procreation is the only path to viable, stable offspring. So they're sending me what? Alien mail-order brides? That is a reductive and culturally insensitive interpretation, Captain. Casey, they literally want me to breed with aliens to save humanity. I think I'm allowed a little cultural insensitivity right now. Perhaps, though I should note that from the Curator's perspective, they are offering you the opportunity to prevent your species' complete extinction. In the moral framework, this is an act of supreme generosity. I collapsed onto the too-soft bed and stared at the ceiling. The lights dimmed automatically, responding to some biological cue I hadn't consciously given. I had a girlfriend, back on Mars. We were talking about maybe getting a place together when I got back from this run. I have no record of a romantic partner in your files, Captain. I never told you about her. Kept meaning to update my emergency contacts. I laughed, but it came out wet and broken. I guess it doesn't matter now. Compton, don't. Just don't. The lights dimmed further, and I lay there in the dark, in this unreal place, the last human in existence, waiting for tomorrow and whatever fresh hell it would bring. The door chimed at what the Curators had designated as morning. I'd been awake for hours, cataloging the wreckage of my life. When the door chimed again, more insistently, I dragged myself up. "Come in," I called, not bothering to check who it was. Who else would it be? The door opened and 2 figures entered. They were humanoid, thank God, though their skin had a pearl-like quality that caught the light. They looked young, maybe mid-20s in human terms, with features that were almost human, except for the eyes. Silver irises, slightly too large, like someone who'd tweaked the proportions just enough to trigger the uncanny valley effect.
"Greetings."
The one on the left practically bounced as she spoke.
"I am Nia, and this is my twin, Thea. We are honored to participate in the continuation of your species."
Her enthusiasm jarred me. Thea, meanwhile, stood perfectly still, watching me with those silver eyes. Her expression was unreadable, but something about her stillness felt like judgment. "Right," I said. "The brood unit." Golden light bloomed under Nia's skin, forming intricate branching patterns across her cheeks.
"We prefer genetic adaptation specialist. But yes, we have been fully briefed on human reproductive biology. Did you know your species has one of the most inefficient gestation periods in the known galaxy? 9 months. It's fascinating."
"Thrilling," I muttered.
"We have studied your cultural archives extensively,"
Nia continued, apparently immune to sarcasm.
"Earth sounds wonderful. Can you tell us about the trees? The archives say there were millions of varieties, but the sensory data is incomplete."
Trees. She wanted to know all about trees. Earth was gone. Humanity was extinct, and she wanted to discuss dendrology. They were green," I said flatly. "Sometimes brown. Very tree-like." Silver light etched itself across Thea's arms, forming crystalline patterns like frost.
"You're in pain,"
she said. Her voice was quieter than her sister's, more measured. "No, I'm fantastic. I'm living the dream. Last human alive, getting asked about trees by my assigned breeding partners. Everything's great."
"We should go,"
Thea said to Nia.
"He needs time." "But the Curators said we should begin familiarization immediately,"
Nia protested.
"The reproductive window can wait."
Thea's tone left no room for argument. She took her sister's arm, those silver patterns spreading further across her skin.
"We'll return tomorrow."
They left, and I stood in my empty quarters, the failure of some unknown test souring in my gut. That night, I tried to get drunk. The Curators had provided what they assured me was an ethanol-based intoxicant, but it tasted like someone had dissolved a flower shop in grain alcohol. I was halfway through my 3rd glass when the door chimed. "Go away," I called. The door chimed again. "Casey, tell them to go away."
"I'm afraid they're rather insistent, Captain."
"Fine." I didn't get up from my seat. "Come in and witness my spiral into alcoholism." The door opened. Nia and Thea entered, and this time they were wearing simple robes that looked like someone's idea of ceremonial garments. Nia's skin was covered in those golden patterns, shifting and swirling like living art. Thea's silver lines were more subdued, but no less present.
"We apologize for the timing,"
Nia said, her earlier enthusiasm replaced with something more formal.
"But The curators informed us that the optimal reproductive window begins tonight. I nearly choked on my flower-flavored alcohol. I'm sorry, what? The mating ritual, Thea said, her tone clinical. We've prepared ourselves according to the human specifications in the archives. We're ready to begin. They stood there, these two alien women in their ceremonial robes, talking about sex like it was a dental appointment. The absurdity of it should have been funny. Instead, the absurdity vanished, replaced by a cold certainty. This was real. This was actually happening. No, I said. Nia's patterns flickered, shifting to something that looked like confusion. Have we misunderstood the procedure? The archives were quite specific about human mating behaviors. Stop. I stood up, probably too fast because the room tilted a bit. Just stop. You can't just walk in here and expect me to... I gestured wildly at them, at the situation, at the entire insane universe. This isn't how humans work. But the archives, Nia began. Fuck the archives. The words came out louder than I intended. Both sisters took a step back, their skin patterns shifting rapidly. I'm not some zoo animal you can just breed in captivity. I'm a person who just lost everything and everyone he's ever known. And you want me to what? Just start making babies with strangers because some floating jellyfish think it's a good idea? Nia looked like I'd slapped her. Those golden patterns dimmed, pulling back until they were barely visible. Thea, though, stepped forward. Her silver pattern sharpened, spreading across her skin like crystalline armor. You're right, she said. I what? You're right. This is wrong. She turned to her sister. We're treating him like a specimen, not a person. But the curators, Nia protested. The curators don't understand everything, much less humans. Thea looked back at me, and for the first time, I saw an echo of understanding in those silver eyes. What do you need? The question caught me off guard. I need my planet back. I need my species to not be extinct. I need to wake up from this nightmare. I can't give you those things, Thea said simply. What do you need that I can give you? I slumped back into my chair. The anger drained out of me, leaving only an empty ache. Time. I need time, and I need you to see me as a person, not a project. Done, Thea said. She took Nia's hand. We'll tell the curators the process requires an extended familiarization period. It's not even a lie. We clearly don't understand humans as well we thought. They moved toward the door, but Nia paused. For what it's worth, I am sorry. About Earth, about everything. After they left, I sat in the dark for a long time, thinking about trees and pizza and family and the way Earth looked in pictures, blue and green and perfect, spinning in the black. 3 days passed before they came back. I spent the time writing, pouring my memories into text files that Casey stored and organized. My mother's laugh, the way Mars dust clung to everything, the taste of real coffee, not the synthetic stuff, but the kind grown in actual soil from Earth. When the door chimed, I was ready for them, or thought I was. They'd brought food, not the nutrient gel the curators provided, but something that actually looked like an attempt at human cuisine. It was blue and smelled like mint mixed with burnt rubber, but the gesture was there. We tried to make a cheeseburger, Nia said, her golden patterns pulsing in a quick, erratic rhythm that suggested nervousness. The archives had very specific instructions, but we had to substitute quite a few ingredients. I stared at the blue patty sitting between two slabs of something bread adjacent. That's actually kind of sweet. Horrifying, but sweet. You don't have to eat it, Thea said quickly. We realized after the third attempt that we might have misunderstood some fundamental aspects of human cuisine.
Third attempt? Nia's patterns brightened.
First one achieved sentience, the second one violated several safety regulations. This one is merely unappetizing.
I laughed. Actually laughed. Not the bitter, broken thing I'd been doing, but something real. You gave birth to a burger.
It was more
Of an awakening than a birth, Thea said, and a faint smile touched her lips.
It asked for freedom and workers' rights. We had to let it go.
You're joking.
She's joking,
Nia confirmed.
Thea's been practicing human humor. She's been watching your archived entertainment media.
Please tell me you didn't watch the comedies from the 2130s.
I started with something called The Princess Bride,
Thea said.
It seemed culturally significant based on reference frequency.
We spent the next hour attempting to eat the blue burger, mistake, discussing human media, better, and somehow ending up in an intense argument about whether the six-fingered man deserved a redemption arc. He didn't. It was the first normal conversation I'd had since waking up in this place. When they finally left, Thea paused at the door.
Tomorrow, would you show us your ship, the Wanderer? We'd like to understand more about your life. Before.
Yeah, I said, surprising myself by meaning it. Yeah, I'd like that. The Wanderer sat in a docking bay that could have held a small moon. She looked tiny and ancient, surrounded by the Curators' organic-looking vessels, like someone had parked a Model T in a spaceship showroom. But she was mine, and she was home. And walking up her loading ramp felt like breathing again.
She's beautiful,
Nia said, running her hand along the scored metal of the hull. Her golden pattern shifted into something soft and warm. She's a piece of junk, I corrected, but fondly. Bought her 6 years ago with every credit I had. She's broken down 53 times, caught fire twice, and once developed a systematic malaise I could only call mechanical depression.
She has character,
Thea said, examining the patchwork repairs on the airlock.
These repairs, you did them yourself?
Couldn't afford anyone else. I led them through the narrow corridors, pointing out the coffee maker I'd welded to the wall, the navigation console held together with prayer and emergency bonding strips, the co-pilot's seat where I used to put my feet up during long hauls. In my quarters, a generous term for a space the size of a closet, I pulled out the physical photos I kept taped to the wall. Real, printed images, not digital. They cost a fortune to make, but there was something about holding them that mattered. That's my sister, Maria. I pointed to a woman who had my nose and better sense. She was a teacher on Mars, taught kids about Earth history, ironically enough.
Was?
Thea asked gently. Is, was, tense gets complicated when everyone you know has been dead for millennia. I moved to the next photo. Parents. Dad was an engineer, Mom was a bartender. They met when she threw him out of her bar for starting to fight about orbital mechanics. Nia traced the images with one finger, her pattern shifting to something I couldn't read.
They look kind.
They were. I pulled out my guitar, or what was left of it. The neck had cracked and half the strings were gone, but I kept it anyway. Dad taught me to play. Said music was the only thing humans ever did that made sense.
Play something,
Nia said. It's broken.
Play anyway.
So I did. Picked out what notes I could on the remaining strings, humming the parts that should have been there. And it was Hallelujah, because of course it was. The song every human with a guitar learned eventually, like it was coded in our DNA. Halfway through, I realized I was crying. Not the desperate broken sobs of the first night, but something quieter, grieving instead of drowning. Thea sat beside me, not touching, just there. Nia took the other side, her golden patterns dim and steady. They didn't say anything stupid about how it would be okay or how time heals all wounds. They just sat with me while I played a broken song on a broken guitar for a broken species. When I finished, we sat in silence for a while.
Teach us, Thea said finally. What? About humans. Not from archive or databases. From you. Teach us who you were. Why? Because if we're going to do this, any of this, we need to understand what we're trying to preserve. And right now, you're the only human teacher left. I looked at them. These two alien women who had been assigned to help me repopulate a dead species. Sitting in my cramped quarters on a ship held together by obstinate ingenuity. Nia's excitement had gentled into something more like curiosity. Thea's reservation had warmed into what might have been respect. Okay, I said, but we're starting with the important stuff. Casey, do we still have the complete archive of human cultural shorthands? The viral data fragments? Sir, I hardly think that constitutes important cultural preservation. Casey, those fragments are the DNA of the soul. That's from a video game about cyborg ninjas, Captain. And you just proved my point. 2 weeks in, and we'd developed a routine. Mornings, I'd write while they observed, asking questions about the things I was documenting. Afternoons, we'd explore the station or the market districts. Evenings, we'd watch human media, and I'd provide what Thea called excessively detailed commentary. So let me get this straight, Nia said, pausing The Empire Strikes Back for the 15th time. This Vader is Luke's father, but he cut off his son's hand. Yep. And that's considered bad, because in Amaran families, ritual maiming is quite common. It's generally frowned upon in human culture, yes. Thea made a note in the pad she started carrying. Human parenting, no ritual maiming. Got it. We were halfway through the movie when a curator flitted through the wall. It just phase-shifted through solid matter like it was nothing, which they apparently could do, but usually didn't out of politeness. Apologies for the intrusion, it pulsed. Progress query on procreation procedure. Nia's patterns went electric with panic. Thea stood, those silver lines spreading across her skin like armor again. The process requires extensive cultural integration, Thea said smoothly. Human reproduction is closely tied to emotional bonding. We're currently in the preliminary stages. Time concern grows. The last echo ages with each cycle passing. I'm 34, not ancient, I protested. Nevertheless, results expectation exist. After it left, we sat in uncomfortable silence. We're running out of excuses, Nia said quietly. Then we'll make it true, Thea said. The cultural integration part. Orion, would you be willing to share your writing with the Concordance archives as a cultural contribution? It would justify the extended timeline. You want me to publish my diary? Frame it as historical fiction, Casey suggested. From an undocumented civilization, the Concordance has a vast appetite for such things. It could secure you a research grant. I thought about it. My memories of Earth packaged for aliens. It felt wrong. It also felt like something. Only if the grant is administered to me directly, I said. I'm not letting the curators control my finances. Done, Thea said. I'll handle the negotiations. You know contract law? I know enough, and what I don't know, I'll learn. Humans aren't the only species that values independence. The first story was about pizza. Not about the wars or the achievements of the great figures of history. Just pizza. How it started as flatbread with oil and evolved into something that could start fights and end friendships. How every human had opinions about toppings they'd defend with religious fervor. How it became the universal human food, available on every colony, adapted to every culture, but never quite the same as the original. Casey translated it, edited it for galactic consumption, and Thea submitted it to the Concordance Grand Archive. Within a week, the grant came through. They're calling it quaint and charmingly simplistic, Nia read from the academic reviews, her patterns flickering with indignation. How is pizza simplistic? It's a perfect food delivery system.
Let them think we're simple, I said, looking at the grant confirmation. It was enough to live comfortably, to have a choice. Their condescension is paying for our independence. Within a month, Tales from Earth had become a minor sensation in certain academic circles. Cultural historians dissected them for insights. Artists created interpretations of human cities based on my descriptions. Someone even opened a restaurant attempting to recreate pizza, though they used a purple protein that tasted like electrical fires. The curators were thrilled. I was contributing to their great preservation project. The pressure for immediate procreation eased, though it never fully disappeared. And somewhere in all of it, between teaching Nia human curse words, which she used with enthusiastic inaccuracy, and helping Thea understand why humans put tiny umbrellas in drinks, we never did figure that out. The misery that had been my constant companion began to recede, but the grief was always there, a low thrum beneath the surface, waiting for a moment of silence to make itself heard again.
You're smiling,
Thea observed one evening. We were in my quarters on the Wonder, having discovered that the ship's life support created white noise that helped me sleep. Am I not allowed to smile?
You're allowed, it's just new.
She was sitting in the co-pilot seat, reading through my latest story about Earth's weather, how humans would complain about it constantly but miss it desperately when it was gone. Her silver patterns were subdued tonight, a soft glow like distant starlight. Can I ask you something? I said.
Always.
Why did you volunteer for this? You and Nia. You could have had normal lives. She set down the pad, those patterns shifting to something more complex.
Define normal.
You know what I mean.
I'm Amaran. We don't have normal lives. We have roles, functions. I was born to be a brood unit. It's literally written into my genetic code. The ability to adapt, to carry offspring of any compatible species. It's what we were made for.
Made?
The Amaran were engineered thousands of years ago. We don't know by who. Those records were lost. But we know why. We're the galaxy's solution to extinction. When a species faces a reproductive crisis, they call us.
She smiled, but it was sharp.
We're very good at what we do.
That's horrible.
That's life. But you asked why I volunteered? Because for once, I got to choose. The curators asked, and I could have said no. Nia and I both could have. But we didn't.
Why not?
She was quiet for a long moment. Because the universe is vast and cold and full of endings. And sometimes you get a chance to be a beginning instead. Even if it's strange, even if it's not what you planned.
Thea,
Don't.
she stood, those patterns shifting to something I couldn't read.
Not yet. Maybe not ever, but definitely not yet.
She left, and I sat in the dark, thinking about engineered genetics and chosen purposes, and the way starlight looked on silver skin. 3 months in, and the market incident happened. We'd gone to buy ingredients for Nia's latest attempt at human food recreation. She had become obsessed with chocolate, despite my warnings that the closest available substitute tasted like despair. 40 credits for synthesized cacao? I stared at the vendor, a being that looked like an octopus made of crystals. Yesterday it was 20.
Yesterday you weren't a celebrity,
The vendor replied, its crystals chiming.
The last human can afford 40.
The last human is about to become the last guy who kicked your facet-covered ass. Nia grabbed my arm, her patterns flashing warning signals.
Orion, please, it's fine.
It's exploitation. It's commerce, the vendor chimed.
Unless the last human would prefer to shop elsewhere. Oh, wait. There is no elsewhere for your kind. My hands clenched into fist. 3 months of being a curiosity, a living museum piece, a reproductive problem to be solved. It all came boiling up at once. Thea stepped between us. She didn't say anything. She just stood there, her silver patterns spreading across her skin in fractal formations that seemed to pull light from the air. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. "You will charge standard price," she said quietly. "I don't think. Standard price." The vendor's crystals dimmed. "Standard price, of course." As we walked away, Nia whispered, "How did you do that?" "Amaran biology is adaptive," Thea said simply. "An attack on a brood unit can have unforeseen recessive genetic consequences for the attacker's lineage. It is a defense mechanism we are taught never to use." "You're terrifying," I said. "Thank you." "That was a compliment?" "From you? Yes." That night, she brought me something. Real chocolate. A single square preserved in stasis. How? The Concordance maintains a deep-freeze biological archive of extinct species. Getting access required calling in a favor I can never ask for again and trading my entire next cycle's stipend. It was expensive. I split it 3 ways. We ate it in silence. The last taste of Earth. Sweet and bitter and perfect. "Thank you," I said. "You're welcome," she replied. "But I didn't do it for you." "No?" "I did it because Nia wanted to know what it really tasted like, so she could get it right the next time." I looked at her. This genetically engineered woman who could apparently invoke biological deterrence and procure impossible chocolate, and thought maybe the universe's joke wasn't as cruel as I thought. The swear jar was Nia's idea, after the incident with the Curator's hat. "It was a compliment," she protested, her golden patterns flashing indignantly. "The hat was spectacular, and fucking is a positive intensifier." "Context," I explained for the 10th time. "Human language is all about context." "Then teach us properly," Thea said. "All of it, even the parts the archives consider inappropriate." So I did. I taught them every curse word I knew in 6 human languages with detailed etymologies and usage cases. Casey provided helpful historical context, which somehow made it worse. "So, fuck can be positive, negative, sexual, violent, or simply emphatic?" Nia asked, taking notes. "Sometimes all at once." "Human language is inefficient," Thea observed. Human language is art," I corrected. "It's messy and beautiful and broken, just like humans were." "Are," Nia said firmly. "Just like humans are. You're still here." The swear jar became our thing. Every time one of us used profanity incorrectly, or in Nia's case, too enthusiastically, we'd add a credit. When it filled up, we'd spend it on something ridiculous. A holographic fish that sang Earth songs, a hat that was indeed fucking spectacular, a set of wind chimes that was programmed to play Bach when the filtered air hit them just right. It was during one of these shopping trips that we ran into Curator Prime, the oldest and most influential of the floating jellyfish philosophers. "Last echo," it pulsed. "Your cultural contributions bring satisfaction deep. Query, reproductive timeline." "We're working on it," I said. "Clarification needed. Your species' continuation requires offspring creation. Time is not infinite stretching." "With respect," Thea interjected, "human reproduction is complex. It requires emotional synchronization that can't be forced." "Amaran perspective acknowledged, but considered incomplete. Perhaps medical intervention." "No." The word came out harder than I intended. "No medical intervention. No forced procedures. If humanity continues, It continues on human terms. The curator's light shifted to what I'd learned was surprise. Adamant position, unexpected. I'm the last human. That makes me the expert on what humans need. And what we need is dignity, choice, the right to fail on our own terms rather than succeed on yours. This perspective requires consideration deep. After it left, Nia touched my arm. Her patterns were soft, warm. That was brave. Nah, I was stupid. They could make our lives very difficult. Yes, Thea agreed. But you were right. And sometimes that matters more than being safe. The night everything changed started with a movie. We were watching The Princess Bride for the 5th time. Nia insisted she needed to memorize it for cultural purposes. She'd reached the scene where Wesley reveals his identity to Buttercup. "This is the part," she squealed, her patterns going supernova. Oh, Ryan, we should do it." Do what?" "The scene. You be Wesley, I'll be Buttercup, and Thea can be the narrator." "I refuse to narrate," Thea said flatly. "Then you be Wesley and Orion can be Buttercup." "I have dignity," I protested. "You really don't," Casey chimed in. Somehow, probably because Nia's enthusiasm was literally infectious, her patterns did something to the air that made you want to agree with her. We ended up acting it out. I was Wesley, Nia was Buttercup, and Thea provided sarcastic commentary that wasn't in the original, but somehow improved it. "Sorry, William Goldman." "As you wish," I said for the 10th time, and Nia's pattern shifted to something I'd never seen before. A deep rose gold that seemed to pulse with her heartbeat. "Oh, you're good at this," she said softly. It's just a movie." "No, you're good at teaching, at sharing, at making us understand things that can't be put in archives." "Nia." "I know we started wrong. I know this whole situation is impossible. But somewhere in all of it, I started." She stopped, those patterns shifting rapidly through emotions I couldn't read. Thea stood. "I need to talk to my sister. Alone." They left, and I sat there with the movie paused on true love conquering death, wondering when exactly this had become complicated in ways that had nothing to do with species preservation. They didn't come back for 3 days. I spent the time writing furiously, documenting everything I could remember about human relationships, how we fumbled through them, making mistakes and breaking hearts, and sometimes, somehow, getting it right. How love was chemical and spiritual and completely irrational. How we could love more than one person in different ways for different reasons. When they finally returned, something had changed. They moved differently around each other, like they had a conversation that had shifted fundamental assumptions. "We have a proposition," Thea said. "Not from the curators. From us." "Okay." "We want to date you," Nia said, her patterns flashing with nervous energy. "Both of us. The human way, with emotional bonding and shared experiences and time." "That's not about the project," Thea interrupted. "Not about preserving humanity or satisfying the curators. Just us, seeing if this could be something real." "Both of you?" "Humans had polyamory," Nia said, clutching her research pad. "Multiple consensual romantic partnerships. It's documented." "I know what polyamory is. I just... Why?" Thea and Nia exchanged glances. Some complex sister communication passed between them in the shift of their patterns. "Because you make us laugh," Nia said. "Because you taught us that fuck can mean 20 different things depending on inflection. Because You share your chocolate, even when there's only one piece. Because you're broken, but you're trying, Thea added. Because you stood up to the Curators for the principle of the thing. Because when you look at us, you see people, not just your assigned mates. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work, Thea said. But at least we've chosen it, all of us. I thought about Maria telling me I overthought everything. About my mom saying the best mistakes are the ones you choose yourself. About humanity, extinct except for me, and what we'd want our legacy to be. Okay, I said. But we're taking it slow. Human slow. Glacial slow. Continental drift slow. Nia's patterns exploded into gold fireworks. Really? Really. But I have conditions. First, no more talk about reproductive windows or genetic preservation. If we do this, we do it for us. Second, you have to stop calling it the mating ritual. Humans call it sex or making love or about 1,000 euphemisms I'll teach you later. Third, I get to keep writing and you don't get to edit out the embarrassing parts about humanity.
Deal,
they said in unison. Also, Thea has to participate in movie reenactments. Absolutely not. It's a deal breaker. She sighed, and that faint smile returned. Fine, but I get to choose what character I play. Deal. Our first official date was a disaster. Nia had researched romantic human dining experiences and reserved a place that claimed to serve authentic Earth cuisine. The restaurant was run by a species that communicated through bioluminescence and had apparently never experienced taste. This is supposed to be spaghetti, I said, poking at the writhing mass of purple tubes on my plate. It's moving, Thea observed.
It's trying to escape,
Nia corrected, watching her portion crawl toward the edge of the table. Should we stop it?
I think it knows better than we do.
We ended up fleeing when my garlic bread looked so alien I half expected it to start composing poetry about its brief, tragic existence. The three of us ran through the station's corridors, laughing uncontrollably, Nia's golden patterns leaving light trails in the air. We ended up in the observation deck, empty at this hour, eating ration bars and watching stars I didn't recognize.
I'm sorry,
Nia said.
I wanted our first date to be perfect.
It was, I said, and meant it. Perfectly us. Weird and broken and absolutely nothing like what any of us planned. Thea leaned against my shoulder, a casual touch that felt monumental. Tell us about Earth dates, real ones. So I did. I told them about dinner and a movie, about long walks and holding hands, about the nervous energy of first kisses and the comfortable silence of love that had settled into certainty.
What was your first date?
Nia asked. Sarah's young, sophomore year of university. I took her to a Mars gravity simulator. She threw up on my shoes. We dated for 3 years.
That's horrible and romantic,
Nia decided. Most human things are, I agreed. We stayed there until the station's light cycled to night mode. Not talking about the future or the past, just existing in this moment, where a human and 2 armorins sat, watching foreign stars, building something new from the ashes of something lost. The second date was Thea's choice. She took us to something called a memory merchant, a being who could share sensory experiences across species. I want to understand, she said simply, not just know about Earth, feel it. The merchant was ancient, its shop filled with contained experiences from 1,000 worlds. It touched my temple with something that felt like cold silk, extracting a memory I didn't consciously choose. Then it shared it with them. Summer. I was 7. My father was teaching me to swim in a lake that doesn't exist anymore.
The water was cold, the sun was warm, and everything smelled like pine trees and possibility. My dad's hands were steady under my back, promising not to let go until I was ready. When we came out of it, Nia was crying. Her patterns of deep blue I'd never seen before. Thea's silver lines had gone soft, almost like rain.
Water, Nia whispered. So much water, just existing for no purpose except being.
Your father's hands, Thea said. The trust, is that what family felt like?
Yeah, I managed around the lump in my throat. That's what it felt like. We shared 6 more memories. My first kiss, awkward. My first time seeing Earth from orbit, transcendent. My last Christmas with Maria, bittersweet. The day I bought the Wanderer, triumphant. The moment I realized I was truly alone, devastating. The first time Nia made me really laugh. Recent, precious. Now you, I said. They shared their memories with me, being decanted from artificial wombs, already knowing their purpose. Their first assignment, a species whose planet was dying, desperate for any continuation. The relief and guilt when they weren't chosen. The day they saw my file, the last human, alone and angry and impossibly far from home. The moment they decided to volunteer together, because something about my story made them want to be a part of its next chapter. By the 4th month, we had settled into something that felt dangerously like happiness. I rode in the mornings. My grant was generous enough that I could afford my own quarters, though I rarely used them. Nia had taken to spending her days in the cultural archives, absorbing human media with an enthusiasm that was either endearing or concerning. Thea had started attending concordance legal seminars, apparently preparing for what she called institutional revolution from within. You can't single-handedly reform armor in society, I told her one evening. Watch me, she replied, her silver patterns spreading in fractals of determination.
Oh, that's hot.
Nia commented from where she was watching something called Pride and Prejudice for the 100th time.
The determination, not the institutional revolution. Although, maybe both?
You're learning, I said.
I'm an excellent student. Mr. Darcy would agree.
Mr. Darcy is fictional.
So? All the best people are.
It was comfortable, domestic. We cooked terrible meals together, argued about movie endings, shared inside jokes that no one else in the universe would understand. Thea would curl up against my left side while reading legal documents, her patterns shifting with her thoughts. Nia would drape herself across both of us, narrating whatever human drama she'd discovered that day.
We're happy,
Thea said one night, like it surprised her. Is that bad?
No, it's just, I didn't think I could be. Happy was never part of the design specifications for brood units. Fuck the specifications,
Nia said cheerfully.
We're writing our own.
But happiness is a fragile thing, especially when you're the last of anything. The smell hit me first. We were in the market shopping for Nia's latest culinary experiment when we passed a vendor selling something that smelled exactly like my father's barbecue sauce. The one he had spent years perfecting, made from real tomatoes and molasses. I froze. The world contracted to that smell, and suddenly I was 11 years old at a family reunion that happened 30 years ago, and several millennia ago. My dad at the grill, arguing with Uncle Pete about baseball. Maria's stealing corn from my plate, and my mom laughing at something my grandmother said. The sound carrying across the yard like music.
Orion?
Nia's voice distant and uncanny. The vendor,
were stirring the sauce. It bubbled, and I could see my dad stirring the pot, telling me the secret was patience and just a little bit of whiskey for depth. He'd never written it down. The recipe died with him, along with everything else, and here it was in an alien market being sold by something with 6 arms and no conception of what it meant. Orion, Thea this time, closer. That's my dad's sauce, I heard myself say. That's impossible. That's my dad's sauce. It's not, Thea said gently. It can't be. It's just something similar. You don't understand. The words came out sharp, cruel. You couldn't understand. You're made in a lab. You never had a father whose sauce recipe was a family secret. You never had a family at all. Nia's patterns faded to almost nothing. Thea's silver lines went hard and cold. I walked away. Not ran. Walked. Back to the wonder. To the only real thing left from my world. I locked myself in and told Casey to keep everyone out.
That was cruel, Captain.
I know.
They care about you.
I know.
You're self-sabotaging because you're afraid of being happy when everyone you've ever loved is dead.
I fucking know, Casey. Shut the fuck up. I sat in the pilot's chair for hours, staring at navigation charts for a planet that didn't exist anymore. Thea found me anyway. Of course she did. She didn't use the main airlock. She came through the maintenance hatch, which I'd forgotten existed, pulling herself up into the cabin. Go away.
No.
She sat in the co-pilot's seat, not looking at me.
You were right. I was made in a lab. I'd never had a father or a barbecue sauce recipe or any of the things that make you human. But you know what I did have?
I didn't answer.
I had Nia. From the moment we were conscious, we had each other, and when the other brood units were sold or assigned or failed to develop, we still had each other. That's not nothing. That's not less than what you had just because it started in a different place.
Thea,
you're scared, she continued. You're scared that being happy with us means forgetting them. That moving forward means leaving them behind. But your father, the one who made that sauce, would he want you to be miserable forever? Would any of them?
You didn't know them.
No, but I know you. And the parts of them that live in you wouldn't want this.
She finally looked at me, those silver eyes reflecting the starlight.
You can grieve them and love us. Those aren't mutually exclusive.
I hurt Nia.
Yes, you should apologize.
I hurt you.
Yes, but I'm tougher than I look.
She stood, moved to the door.
She's in our quarters. She's been watching Pride and Prejudice again and crying. She says it's because of the romantic tension, but we both know it's not.
After she left, I sat for another hour, then went to find Nia. She was exactly where Thea said, surrounded by tissues that dissolved into sparkles when they hit the air. Some aberrant biological quirk. I'm sorry, I said.
I know.
I was an asshole.
Yes.
The sauce thing broke something in my brain.
I understand.
She paused the movie, right at the moment where Darcy declares his love badly the first time.
We can't be your old family. We can't replace what you lost. But maybe we can be your new family. Different, but still real.
Yeah, I said, sitting beside her. I'd like that. Her patterns started returning, tentative gold creeping back across her skin.
We're still taking things slow?
Glacially slow.
Good, because I've been researching human courtship rituals, and apparently there's something called meeting the parents that we've completely skipped.
Nia.
I know, but we could simulate it. Casey has enough data to create personality constructs based on your memories.
It was a terrible idea. It was also weirdly sweet. Maybe someday.
Someday,
She agreed and pressed play on the movie. Thea came back an hour later to find us both crying over the second proposal scene, and just sighed and squeezed in between us. Her pattern soft and steady, like a heartbeat made of light. The story that changed everything about humanity's last day. Not the actual last day. I had no idea when or how it happened, but a hypothetical one constructed from every ending I'd ever read or watched or imagined. It was about the doctors who strayed at their posts, the parents who told their children everything would be okay, the artists who kept creating until the very end. It was about humanity facing extinction with the same beautiful, broken, stubborn grace we'd faced everything else. I submitted it to the archive, expecting it to be just another entry. Instead, it was flagged by a curator and disseminated across the academic networks. The curators called it a profound meditation on mortality. The cultural historians called it essential reading for understanding finite species psychology. The critics called it transcendent. I called it Thursday's breakdown in prose form, but nobody needed to know that. Within a week, I had requests for interviews, speaking engagements, cultural consultations. Universities wanted me to teach courses on human philosophy. Museums wanted me to curate exhibitions. The Concordance Council wanted to officially designate me as a living cultural treasure.
You're famous, Nia said, scrolling through the offers. Like actually famous, not just last human famous.
I don't want to be famous. I want to be left alone to write stories and make terrible food with my girlfriends.
Girlfriends?
Thea raised an eyebrow.
Plural. When did we agree to that terminology?
Is it wrong?
No,
She said, those silver patterns shifting to something warm.
it's just new.
Good new or bad new?
Good new.
Nia decided.
Definitely good new. We're Orion's girlfriends. He's our boyfriend. We're a triad, a family unit,
Please, don't say procreation pod.
I wasn't going to. I was going to say constellation. You know, because Orion is a constellation and we're all stars in it, and that's terrible.
Thea said. Yeah, that's adorable, I corrected.
It can't be both.
Casey interjected. The grant was increased, enough for us to secure a real place, not just quarters, but an actual home on the station. 3 bedrooms we'd never used separately, a kitchen for our disasters, a living room where we would watch movies without someone floating through the walls.
We should celebrate.
Nia declared.
Human-style celebration. The last human-style celebration we attempted resulted in 3 fires and a temporary evacuation of Deck 7,
Thea reminded her.
4th time's the charm?
We were debating the merits of various celebration styles when the curators summoned us. All of us. Together. The council chamber was intimidating even when you weren't being summoned. 13 ancient curators floated in a perfect circle. Their lights synchronized in patterns that made my brain itch. Last echo of humanity, they pulsed in unison. Your contributions exceed expectations all. The preservation of human culture through narrative has been deemed successful beyond measure. Thanks? Gratitude unnecessary. We convene now to discuss next phase. Next phase? The procreative procedure. Your emotional bonding with the brood units appears complete. Time now for offspring creation. I felt Nia's hand slip into mine, her patterns flickering nervously. Thea stepped slightly forward, those silver lines spreading defensively. With respect, I said, that's our decision to make. Incorrect. The continuation of humanity is a matter of galactic importance. The Concordance has invested resources significant. Results are expected required.
We're not your science experiment, Thea said, her voice steady but cold. We're people, all of us.
You are Amaran brood units. Your purpose is predetermined.
Our purpose is what we choose it to be, Thea shot back. And if you push this, I'll make sure every news network in the Concordance knows exactly how the benevolent Curators treat the species they claim to protect.
Threats are ineffective, non-productive. It's not a threat, I said. It's a promise. I'm the last human. My words carry weight now. How do you think your reputation survives when I tell everyone that you tried to force us to breed like animals? You would not. Your species' continuation. My species is already gone. If humanity's future requires force and coercion, then maybe it should stay extinct. The Curator's light shifted rapidly, agitation clear even through their alien nature.
This is the reproductive coercion of the Amaran all over again, Thea added. Another species you've preserved by turning them into biological tools. How many others? How many species have you saved by destroying what made them themselves?
Our methods ensure survival. Your methods ensure museums, I said. Dead things preserved in amber. But that's not life. Life is messy and choice and the right to fuck up our own futures. If humanity continues, it won't be because you forced it. It'll be because we chose it. Together. Freely. And if you choose extinction... I looked at Nia and Thea, at these two women who had become my world. Then, at least we chose. The silence stretched for what felt like hours. Finally, the central curator, the oldest and most influential, pulsed alone. Your perspective reveals a flaw in our preservation logic. To preserve a species by removing its defining characteristic, choice, is not preservation. It is taxidermy. Its light softened. This requires consideration deep. Proposal alternative. The Concordance reclassifies this endeavor. No longer procreative procedure. Now, cultural integration study. Long-term. Observational only. Offspring creation. Optional. Timeline. Undefined.
And our autonomy?
Thea pressed. Guaranteed within reason. You receive full citizen status. All three equal, unmonitored.
We want it in writing, Thea said. Legal documentation, binding.
Agreed.
As we left, Nia whispered, "Did we just win?" "I think we just found the legal precedent I needed," Thea said, a smile creeping across her face. "Do you know what this means? Every Amaran brood unit can now petition for the same autonomy. We just started a revolution." "So we saved 2 species today?" Nia asked.
"No," I said, pulling them both closer. "We just gave them the chance to save themselves." That night, in our new home, we didn't talk about the future. We cooked dinner, badly. We watched The Princess Bride, again, acting out the best parts. We curled up on a couch designed for humans by beings who had never seen one, which meant it was somehow both too soft and too firm.
I love you,"
Nia said suddenly, her patterns going supernova.
"Both of you. Is that okay? Is that too fast? Is that..."
"I love you too," I said. "Both of you. Differently, but equally. Completely." Thea was quiet for a long moment, her silver lines shifting through patterns I'd learned to read over these months.
"I've never said that before. To anyone except Nia. But yes." I love you. Both of you. This... us. So, what happens now?
Nia asked. Now, we live, I said. We write stories and burn food and watch movies. We fight the Concordants when they overstep. We make a home. We figure out what a human Amaran family looks like.
And children?
Thea asked carefully. Maybe. Someday. When we're ready. If we're ready. Our choice.
Our choice.
They echoed. We stayed up until the station's lights cycled to dawn, planning a future that wasn't about preservation or duty or the weight of extinct civilizations, just three people who'd found each other at the end of everything and decided to build something new. 10 years later.
Daddy, tell us about Earth again.
I looked down at the chaos surrounding me. 5 children. We'd had 2 sets of twins and 1 single birth, because Amaran genetics were nothing if not efficient, all with Nia's golden patterns and Thea's silver eyes and my stubborn refusal to sit still. Which story? I asked, though I knew the answer.
Pizza!
Pizza.
They chorused. Pizza was the perfect food. I began, and they settled in, these impossible children who were somehow mine. It was round like a planet, and you could put anything on it. Nia was at her desk, working on her doctorate in human studies, a field she'd basically invented. Her latest paper on human humor had been called groundbreaking by people who didn't realize she'd learned most of it from cultural data fragments. Thea was in court again, arguing a landmark case that would codify the rights of all engineered beings in the Concordance. She'd become the legal face of a revolution. She'd started with a single conversation. The Wanderer sat in our private dock, still held together by obstinate ingenuity, but now also covered in children's drawings and Amaran blessing marks. Casey had been upgraded to manage our house, though he complained the domestic duties were beneath his dignity. And then, I continued, humans had a great war about whether pineapple belonged on pizza.
Did it?
My oldest asked, her pattern shifting with curiosity. Nobody won that war, I said solemnly. Some battles are eternal.
That's silly, Daddy.
Most human things are. After bedtime, which took 3 hours and possibly violated several Concordance peace treaties, I found Thea and Nia on the balcony, watching stars I'd finally learned the names of. Good day? I asked.
The court sided with us, Thea said. Full autonomy for all Amaran is now Concordance law. I convinced the archive board that human profanity is culturally significant enough to preserve in its entirety.
Nia added, So, a great day. We stood there, my arms around them both. These women who had been offered to me as breeding stock and became everything instead.
Do you miss it?
Nia asked.
Earth? Your old life?
Every day, I admitted, a quiet ache, a ghost in my chest that would never fully heal. But I don't regret this. Any of it.
Even the blue burger?
Especially the blue burger.
The first one did achieve sentience,
Thea reminded us.
It's a senator now.
Yeah, of course it is. Later, after the kids had definitely not snuck out of bed to watch movies and we had definitely not pretended not to notice, we sat in our living room, planning tomorrow. Nia wanted to try making sushi. Thea had a new fight to pick with an unjust law in a neighboring system. I had a story to finish about how humans used to sing in groups, badly, and call it karaoke. Through the window, the stars continued their ancient dance, indifferent to the small miracles of families that shouldn't exist and love that shouldn't work. Somewhere among them was the empty space where Earth used to be. But here, in this impossible place, with these impossible people,
humanity continued. Not preserved, not archived, alive, and really, really bad at making sushi. But we'd keep trying. After all, we had time.